about refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best on the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes a sack, and that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Damn, this microphone. Happy Tuesday to everybody. So glad to be back with every single one of you. And guess what? It's football week. We can finally stop talking trash without anything to back it up. And that includes me. A lot of you, probably most of you, for that matter, based on the amount of subscribers I gained during the off season, were not here during the last football season. So one of two things is going to happen. It's going to be either a rude awakening or a nice surprise. I've been friendly with a lot of you. I'm a lot nicer in the off season than I am during the season. But listen, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. We can finally talk about football now. So let's get down to doing that. Before I do what I wanted to get on here today to talk about, let's talk who is in the comment section here. Good afternoon, Miranda Dansby. Ryan Stanfield, my man. Dan Mullet, good afternoon, sir. George Glover, hello. SC Tiger Fan 803, good afternoon, sir. I don't know if I've seen you in here before unless you just changed your name. I don't know. I will do a quick announcement. Obviously, I'll be doing the streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. like scheduled. And like I said before, I will be doing good afternoon, Small Ball. How you doing? And Mark Dudley. One game every Saturday. Well, every weekend, more than likely on Saturdays. Of course, this weekend we have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games. Most of the time it's going to be a game that's probably in the evening or nighttime, primetime game on Saturdays. This Saturday will be my first live stream during a game, live play-by-play reaction during the game. I chose, well, for a couple of reasons, and I hope you all can still make it, the Washington-Auburn game, and that's at 3:30 Eastern time. The Notre Dame Michigan game, I thought about doing, that is at, I want to say 7:30 or 8 o'clock Saturday night. Unfortunately, I have obligations that night. I won't be able to stream. Plus, I am more interested, quite frankly, in the Auburn and Washington game because of the quarterback matchup. You have two stud quarterbacks who are veterans That's a top 10 matchup. I think it's going to be a great game. So hopefully you guys aren't doing anything Saturday afternoon, and you can join me for that. It should be a lot of fun. Good afternoon, Nick Bro, 19 Savage, DeGoat Watson, and of course I think I already said Smallville and Mark Dudley. DeGoat Watson says, how come I didn't get a notification for your stream? Well, that's a good question, sir, because at least half of the people who are on here every time I stream say that they don't get notifications for it. So your guess is as good as mine. My guess is because I've sent YouTube probably about 1 million emails cussing them out and telling them that they're no good. But, I doubt that's what... I doubt they're hating on me personally, but it is what it is. Ryan Stanfield says, Pigskin Pete, JC said if Auburn loses, she's Sednam sleeping on the couch Saturday night. The GOAT, I've been flapping every day of the week. I'm so excited. Yes, listen. I don't know how you guys are at the end of the college football season. Well, as soon as the national championships played, I get a little bit depressed the next day. But at least at that point, you still have like another 2 or 3 weeks of NFL football left. And after the Super Bowl is over, that next Monday, I go through about a 2-week depression. Now, I will say this, though. This year was my first off-season since being on YouTube. And this off-season went quick for me because I was busy making videos. I was busy interacting with you guys. You guys made this off-season for me a lot more bearable than it normally would be. So that's a credit to you guys. But still, either way, football is back, at least for the next 5 months. George says, I got the notification, and I usually do. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's up with the notification thing. I'm done emailing YouTube about it. So it just, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, we'll get into some week 1 matchups, and I'm gonna give you my predictions. Now, I thought about doing like betting spreads because actually some of them are very interesting. Like the Notre Dame Michigan spread is interesting. What was the other one that I was thinking about? I was just talking to my father-in-law about it. Can't remember which one it was now. Like surefire ones, in my opinion. But anyway, we'll just forget about the spreads. We'll do that next week if I can remember to look all the spreads up and write them down. I didn't write anything down today. I didn't prepare. I'm just winging it, and sometimes I'm better winging it than not. I just didn't have any time to prepare for the show today. So we'll start with Washington-Auburn, the one that I'm going to stream for. I'm picking Auburn to win this game. Up until probably about 3 days ago, I was picking Washington to win it. Now, in my mind, this is the hardest game to pick out of all the big matchups week 1. I mean, that's just me, though. I was thinking that Washington has maybe the only elite defense in the Pac-12. They have a 5th-year senior, or he's at least a 4-year starter, right? Browning. Who 2 years ago lit the stats up, took him to the college football playoff, got beat by Alabama in the first round of the playoffs. Last year, he took a little bit of a step back. I'm not sure if that was just him or if that was the fact that he lost so much talent off that offense. I'm a big believer in their coach. I'm a big believer in their running back, Myles Gaskin. I'm a big believer in their defense. But I still think in this scenario that Auburn is going to beat them. I think that Auburn, and listen, there's everyone has Clemson having the best defensive line in the country, right? I mean, that's the consensus if you read every magazine. And as a homer, I'm going to tell you the same thing. But let's be real. Auburn might have the second best defensive line in the country this year, right up there with Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama. Those 5 teams, right? I can't count. Clemson, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Yeah, 5. That's the 5 best defensive lines in the country, most likely. And if this game was later in the year, I might pick Washington. But I think Auburn is going to win a very close game. And plus, it's more of a home game for Auburn. I know it's in Florida. But, yeah, that's a 2,500-mile trip for the Washington kids. And so there you have it. I would like to see Washington win the game just because I think it would be funny to see Auburn lose to a Pac-12 team. And, I'm no Auburn fan. But we'll see what happens. So that's the first game. Let's see what you guys are talking about in here before I get into the other ones. Mark Dudley says South Bend. Coastal Carolina is beating South Carolina. No, they're not. Yeah, I pick Auburn, but this game could go either way. That's what I think. Believe me, if Auburn wins, I don't think it's going to be any blowout. I think it's going to be a close game no matter what happens. Ryan Stanfield says Bama versus Clemson in the Natty. Book it. Well, that's what the experts are picking. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, if you go off recent history, and then yeah, believe me, I do think that Alabama and Clemson will both be there in the Final Four. Once you get down to the last four teams, it's anybody's game from there. Anybody can lose. You're talking about the four best teams in the country. Nobody's unbeatable. Trust me. Let's see. Bandwagon alert. DeGoat Watson, I hope you get Saturdays off too. I agree. Bama versus Clemson in the Natty. All right, so basically one person agrees with me that they think Auburn will win. Now, if anybody says that they think Washington's going to win, I'm not going to argue with you. It's just too hard of a game to try to figure out and pick, and that's that. Now, next we'll move on to Notre Dame and Michigan. There's 4 games, like I said, that are very interesting games. Week 1. All right, so I know I have Mark Dudley in here, and I know Mark Dudley gives me a hard time because he thinks I hate Michigan, which I don't hate Michigan. I just think that they're overrated, and I think Jim Harbaugh's is way overrated and overpaid. Besides that, the Big Ten East is probably the toughest division in football. We can agree there, Mark Dudley, and every other Michigan fan that might be listening. I think that since this game is in Notre Dame, I'm picking Notre Dame to win this game. In Vegas, Michigan is favored to win this game. I think it's 1.5 points, or it was last time I checked a couple days ago. It might have moved by now. If I'm a betting man, which I'm not, I'm putting money on Notre Dame at home to beat Michigan, even if it was straight up, even if the line was even. So I'm picking Notre Dame to win that game. Now, the ramifications of this game might mean more to Michigan than any other game being played week 1. All right, listen, Auburn can lose to Washington, run the table, they'll be in the playoff. Washington, same thing. They could, or whatever I just said. The loser of the Washington-Auburn game can still make the playoff. If Michigan, Notre Dame could lose the game to Michigan, as long as they went out, I still believe they'll make the playoff, most likely, because they have a pretty tough schedule. If Michigan loses week 1 to Notre Dame, the chances that they run the table throughout the rest of their schedule are very slim. I mean, listen, even if you're a Michigan fan, you got to admit, you're going to have to beat Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State, and win the rest of your games on top of that, and then win the Big Ten, which is most likely going to be against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. So if you're a Michigan fan, your season could hinge on this first game of the season, which is pretty unheard of. I mean, a lot of things can happen, but I believe if Michigan loses this game, they're not going to make the playoff. I don't think they're going to make the playoff even if they win it, but all I'm saying is if they lose the game, I don't see any way that they go undefeated after that and make the playoff. George says he's taking Michigan on this one just because I hate Notre Dame. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like either one of them. I just think that I don't know. First of all, Notre Dame is a hard place to go win. I mean, they just are. I would say that Michigan has probably the better defense. Michigan with Shea Patterson might have the better quarterback. But Notre Dame is hard to beat at home. They're not going to be, listen, their defense is going to be better than it was last year. Just ask Georgia how easy it was to go in there. They won by 1 point. And, it's early in the year, first game of the year. They don't have a lot of injuries. They haven't been beat up. It's not week 7 or 8. So just believe me. And that's where college game day is going to be. It's going to be a live atmosphere. It's going to be a night game. Shea Patterson's first start with Michigan. You have a returning starting quarterback, Winbush, for Notre Dame. They have an elite offensive line. They have an elite running game. I mean, if Winbush is able to even complete 60% of his passes or 50, I see Notre Dame winning this game. I think that game will be close too, though. But I'm picking Notre Dame. DeGoat Watson says he's high on Michigan this season. They got an elite defense and finally a quarterback with great weapons around him. It will be about time they beat OSU and make the playoffs. Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, yes, they always have a great defense. They always have great skill position players. Like everyone, all the Michigan fans say, all they're missing is a quarterback. Well, that's great. But Shea Patterson isn't just going to come into a new system and a new conference and a new program, a new coach, a new playbook, a new everything, and just all of a sudden look like he's never missed a beat. I mean, just ask Jared Stidham when he came into Auburn last year. Everyone was saying, oh, Stidham's – last year they were saying Stidham for Heisman. He's on Auburn now. He's on a good team. He's got an elite defense to back him up. Well, Stidham didn't get rolling until about 5 or 6 games into the season because it took him that long to get acclimated to Auburn's system. It just doesn't happen in game one. Good afternoon, Bill Berry. Tomato Mouth, good afternoon, sir. Tiger Nation, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Christopher Goodrich, good afternoon, sir. I'm sure you're here. If you're here, you're fantastic and amazing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Will Clemson be on TV? Every Clemson game is on TV. Where I live, it's a local game. Every Clemson and South Carolina game are on no matter who they're playing. So, yes, Clemson comes on at 12:30. The Washington-Auburn game comes on at 3:30. And then, of course, the Notre Dame-Michigan game comes on at nighttime. Now, the Alabama-Louisville game, which is another game I'll be keeping an eye on, that'll be happening during the same time I'm streaming the Auburn and Washington game. I will be keeping an eye on that, although I don't think it's going to be much of a game. I see. I mean, unless something crazy happens, I see Alabama beating up on Louisville pretty good. All right, so the next game I'll get into is on Sunday night, and that is Miami and LSU. This is easy to me. I know that you I've heard, especially SEC fans say that they think that LSU is going to beat Miami. Miami was a flash in the pan. They had a good stretch there. They lost the last 3 games they played, starting with Pitt and then Clemson and then Wisconsin in the bowl game. They have a terrible quarterback, blah, 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 blah. But I'm here to tell you, what's LSU done? I mean, LSU lost to a high school team. Ed Orgeron doesn't know what he's doing. He might be able to recruit good players. Guess what? LSU's been recruiting good players since 1990. And in the past decade, they haven't done jack with it, starting with Les Miles. I mean, Les Miles had Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, and nobody knew who they were until they went into the NFL and became elite players. It just goes to show you. I mean, listen, Leonard Fournette, elite running back, better in the NFL than he was there. Geis just got hurt. Otherwise, he'd be in the same boat. It's one thing to have great players. It's another thing to develop them and to scheme for it. I just think that Mark Richt is a better coach. He's definitely more proven. He's been in the SEC as a coach when he was at Georgia for a long time, winning 10, 11 games a year. It comes down to Miami in his second year, goes 10-3. What's Orgeron done? Nothing. I don't believe the Orgeron. I think Orgeron's going to probably win about 7 games or 8 games if he's lucky and get fired at the end of the year. So, my wife keeps calling me. Doesn't she know Pigskin Pete's show is on at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays? I mean, she's not very astute, if you will. Let's see here. What are you guys talking about? Ryan Stanfield, Alabama should win the game by 500 points. Listen, I mean, that game could go one of 2 ways. It could be a blowout by Alabama, which it should be, but don't be surprised if it's closer than you think with Louisville. The only reason I say that is because we don't know what this quarterback is going to look like for Louisville. And I'm here to tell you guys, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's a much better passer than Lamar Jackson is. He's a big kid, too, 6'5", 230, something like that, 6'4", 230. And he's no slouch. Now, again, it's his first game, too, as a starter, and he's playing against Alabama, which is a rude awakening for him. Alabama's not, Louisville's not terrible. They're not going to be terrible this year, but I don't think they're ready for Alabama. It could either be a blowout or it could end up being closer than people think. But I don't see. I'd be shocked if Louisville beat them. I don't think that's going to happen. It's like a 28-point spread in Vegas. I wouldn't take the points on that though. I wouldn't bet that game. Good afternoon, Catfish. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. I hope Alabama's just tired of winning all the time. Now, George, I'm not going to even read the rest of that statement. Of course, I'm not tired of winning all the time. That doesn't happen, sir. I'm betting money on LSU and Miami. I hope you lose. That's coming from a Florida fan. I'll be rooting for Miami, and I think they'll win. So in that case, we'll have Louisville losing and then LSU losing. So the ACC Week 1 against SEC teams will most likely be 1-1. But who knows? Anything can happen. The next game is another game I'm really looking forward to. Is on Monday night, I think. And that's going to be Florida State and Virginia Tech. So you have basically the second best team in the ACC Atlantic in Florida State and the second best team in the ACC Coastal and Virginia Tech. Both teams want to upset the best team in their division, right? Obviously, the best team in Florida State's division is Clemson, and the best team in Virginia Tech's division is Miami. I don't think this game is going to be close. It's in Tallahassee. I'm sorry to tell you, I don't care. Willie Taggart, Willie Schmaggart, Pigskin Pete could be coaching that team. Florida State talent right now is miles ahead of Virginia Tech. And they just named DeAndre Francois the starting quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. I mean, listen, he got hurt last year, week 1 against Alabama, but the guy's really good. And he's going to be hungry. He hadn't played in 12 months. And I think that Florida State's going to put on a show. And I think that Virginia Tech's going to lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's what I think. I was higher on Virginia Tech a couple of months ago during the offseason. Not real impressed with what they've done, what they've lost, in replacing that. Their recruiting class was good, not great. Listen, Willie Taggart came in at the last minute and was able to salvage a really good recruiting class. Meanwhile, Justin Fuentes has been there for going into his 3rd year, and he's still struggling to recruit elite talent. I'm on the verge of jumping off the Justin Fuente train if he doesn't do something spectacular this year. Only thing I can say about Virginia Tech, though, is their quarterback, returning quarterback. I think it's going to be really good this year. The problem is their defense, which is always the strength of Virginia Tech, is not probably going to be as good this year as they normally are. I don't expect them to be. And too much firepower between Cam Akers, DeAndre Francois, and some of those receivers on Florida State's offense to beat Virginia Tech. To lose to Virginia Tech. By 2 and 3, no way this game will be closer. Florida State 31-28. Hopefully Florida State wins so I can help your strength of schedule. Yeah, I don't care about that. Clemson doesn't need to worry about strength of schedule. They just need to handle business. They need to beat Texas A&M. They can lose one game like they did last year to a no-name, which I don't think is going to happen. But Clemson needs to lose not more than one game and win the ACC. Pretty much that simple. And an 11-1 ACC champion is going to the playoff. A 10-2 ACC champion, probably not going to the playoff. So you're allotted one slip up if you're Clemson or Miami. That's it. That's your ceiling. Alabama should start Jalen Hurts so he doesn't transfer and make Tua. Here's the thing. Tua is going to start. Doesn't matter whether it's game 1 or game 2 or game 3. And Jalen Hurts will transfer. That's it. Tua will be the starter. Jalen Hurts will transfer. Miami should have joined SEC. Why didn't they join the SEC? Why does everybody say that? Why does everybody say Clemson should have joined the SEC? Miami should have joined the SEC. This is what the SEC fans do. They go around and cherry pick all the great teams out of other conferences and say they should have joined the SEC. Like, it doesn't work like that. Hasn't Clemson made the playoffs the last 4 years? We've made the playoffs the last 3 years, and in 2 of those 3 years we were in the national championship game, and obviously won one of them. Wow, you think Tua will start, Pete? I'm not saying he'll start week 1. Well, actually, I am saying that. Who am I kidding? Yeah, I think Tua will start. Yeah. George says, Pixie and Pete, Bobby Durkins, and Uncle Lou really have it going in the world of college football and YouTube. I love this shit, man. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Anytime you say anything nice about Pigskin Pete, you're aces in my book. Jalen Hurts will transfer as soon as possible. Well, he can't transfer until after the season's over. So, yeah. I mean, listen, here's the thing, though. I mean, this is the same thing going on at Clemson with Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence. We're talking about who's going to start. The starter doesn't mean that's who's finishing. I mean, listen, Tua could get the nod week 1 and go out there just like DeAndre Francois did last year in game 1 and get his knee blown out. And they still have 11 more games to play. And who's the guy going to be? Of course it's going to be Jalen Hurts. You just never know what's going to happen. So who's going to start and who's going to finish doesn't always end up the same. I hope whatever it takes to mess up Alabama's dominance happens to Alabama. I'm tired of Alabama, says George. Basically, and Pete, what if Clemson loses to Florida State in a close game by 3 points and don't make the ACC championship but end up with 1 loss? Could they make the playoffs? Yes, they can. Ask Alabama. If Clemson goes 11-1 with a close loss to Florida State, they absolutely could make the playoffs. It's going to completely depend on the rest of the landscape of college football. Now, Clemson, if they're 11-1 with a close loss to Florida State, is not going to leapfrog a 1-loss Big Ten champion. You get what I'm saying? But let's say there's not a. Let's say the winner of the Big Ten has 2 losses. Let's say just for reference, making this up, Penn State wins the Big Ten with 2 losses. They'd have to make a decision there. It would depend on who they lost to, how they lost. There's so much that goes into it, but yes, it could conceivably happen. You think Jalen could go to Florida? They really need a quarterback. I would be surprised if Jalen Hurts transferred if he went to an SEC school. I don't think that's going to happen. I would say more than likely he would go to Big 12, Pac-12, possibly, I guess, even an ACC school if you want to get technical about hell, Big 10. I mean, I think he would go to any other conference probably other than the SEC. DeGoat Watson says, yeah, but college football loves Alabama. They hate us. No, I don't think that's true at all. I think that college football fans hate winning teams that win every year. Listen, I mean, nobody ever hated Clemson until the past few years when they started going to the playoffs every year. Now everyone hates them. So it is what it is. If everybody hates you, you're doing something good. Unless you're South Carolina. South Carolina's never won anything. Everyone hates them because all they do is run their mouth like they have won something. So that's a different story, though. I just thought it was so imbalanced. I felt sorry for all the other fan bases. I don't mind if somebody else gets the win once in a while. Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of any other team other than Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State or Oklahoma or Georgia, I got news for you. There's one way to cure that hate. Win something. Beat them. I mean, Florida had a little run there with Spurrier, and of course again, actually a bigger run with old Urban, and believe me, everyone hated Florida then, didn't they? The way it goes. I want our conference to be strong. I want it to mean something. We beat another Southeastern Conference team. I don't like when the other team sucks. Well, yeah, I believe me, I feel your pain. DeGoat Watson says, how do you feel about the era of quarterbacks or players in general transferring if they don't start after a season? DeGoat Watson, that's a great question. Let me read this real quick, and I'll answer that. Breaker, good afternoon. Breaker, whatever you are. Good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're fantastic and amazing. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here. Fact or fiction, Jordan Leggett was the most underrated player on the 26th national championship team. Well, I would say that, well, I don't know if he was underrated because he got a lot of credit. He made the catch of the century to basically keep that drive alive and win it. I think anybody not named Deshaun Watson was underrated in that game. He got all the credit, and he should have. But there was, Mike Williams, Ben Boulware, Wayne Gallman, Jordan Leggett. You're talking about guys that were making plays at the right time. It was a team effort, but I do agree Jordan Leggett was underrated. So to go, Watson, I'll go back to your question. Yeah, how do I feel about quarterbacks or players transferring? It's mostly quarterbacks if they don't get a start after a season. Here's the thing. I don't have any problem with a fifth-year senior or graduate transferring. If a freshman comes in, it doesn't matter if he's a 5-star or whatever, highly rated, has to sit on the bench for a year or maybe even 2 and transfers because he's not, starting. I don't like that. You're starting to see players transfer very, very early because they don't want to win the job. They want to go somewhere where it can be given to them. And listen, everyone, these are kids. They're allowed to do what they want to do. If they want to go somewhere where they think they can start, more power to them. But don't commit to a major university where you're going up against other 4- and 5-star talent. And just because you lose the job, leave. I think it's not very respectable. Everyone's situation is different, though. What if Florida goes 6-6 this year and all fans saying 10-2 up and disappear? Well, I'm sure they will. I don't see Florida winning 10 games. That would be the shock of the century if that happened. Yeah, there goes my watch again. And Miranda, thank you. I give up on the watch. The GOAT Watson, you better look at how fast Jordan Leggett had to turn his whole body in the air. Yeah, the Mike Williams catch is what Mike Williams is known for. The 50-50 jump ball. He jumped up like Jordan, not Jordan Leggett, but Michael Jordan, and got that and high pointed that ball. The Jordan Leggett catch might be one of the greatest catches I've ever seen because of the way he had to make it. Bobby Durkin's here. Good afternoon, Bobby. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. Anybody who doesn't know Bobby, if you're here, you probably already know him. But he's obviously the greatest Clemson YouTuber of all time. So that says it all right there. Oh, my God, it's Bobby Durkin, says George. Hey, Bobby, I know you're happy. It's football season, man. It couldn't have got here any sooner, could it? I was literally about a week away from calling and checking myself into a mental institution, which I probably should do anyway. I'm not going to lie. I considered it, but I don't have to do that now. Now I can just be mental on here with you guys. And the best thing about you guys is I can be completely mentally deranged, and you guys don't care. It's great. The reason I'm here. We got Catfish and Bobby Durkins in the house. Somebody call Uncle Lou, says George. Cam Newton looked good, but he's dumb for most breaking his... Yeah. Don't even get me started on that. Cam Newton, that was the craziest play I've ever seen. Brecker. How do you say your name? Brecker? Would you rather see South Carolina struggle the entire season or have them beat teams like UGA instead of high-profile match for come rivalry week? Well, I don't really care, Bracker. Here's the thing, though. I mean, listen, like I said before, Clemson's schedule doesn't really matter as long as they take care of business. I don't think that whatever South Carolina's ranking is at the end of the year when they play them is going to matter. It never has before because South Carolina's not usually ranked very high when they play them. I don't care. As a matter of fact, I generally, just as a rule of thumb, root for South Carolina to lose every game. I can't remember ever in my life rooting for South Carolina to win a game. So when they play Georgia week 2, I doubt that's going to change. I'll probably be rooting for Georgia. I don't care. I don't care if they're 11 and 0 when they play Clemson or 0 and 11. I'd rather 0 and 11. 4 days to go, I've noticed a change in my physiology. My breathing has changed, and he's more alert. George says he'll give his left you-know-what if South Carolina beats Georgia. I wouldn't go that far, sir. Believe me, don't do that, please. I would never make that bet because my luck, South Carolina would win. First of all, I think that don't be surprised if South Carolina does win that game. I mean, Georgia's a better team. They got a better coach. They got a better roster. They got a better history. They got a better everything. But anything can happen. Doesn't matter. If South Carolina wins that game, they're still not winning the East. Georgia, I'll be the one on who cuts it off. Take that $25,000 for that. You guys. DeGoat Watson says he thinks South Carolina will beat Georgia. Here's the problem. As a lifelong Clemson fan and a lifelong follower of the Gamecocks just for hateful purposes and regional purposes, every big game that South Carolina plays in, whenever anyone says, oh, South Carolina, really, watch out, they really could win this game, they always get massively slaughtered. Same thing happened against Clemson last year. Everybody and their mother, oh, look out, Clemson. Look out. You got to go to South Carolina. And Jake Bentley's really good. They've got Sky Moore. And they've got all these weapons. It's going to be an upset. Everyone was picking Clemson to get upset last year in Columbia, weren't they? I mean, it was a massive disappointment. I mean, that game was over before it started. And I think that what you're going to see probably is the more hyped up the game gets, from around the country, everyone's saying, oh, South Carolina's going to beat Georgia. I'm hearing that all over the radio, all over TV, all over YouTube. These South Carolina fans, they can't handle being told that they're actually going to win the game. Whenever they do that, they go out there and lay an egg. So I'm picking Georgia to win the game. It just is what it is. George says Georgia's offense will destroy South Carolina. Yeah. 25332 says South Carolina getting too much credit. Yeah, they're getting too much credit, all right. This is the what's today? Tuesday, August 28th. If you're a Gamecock fan, write this down. This will be the happiest that you are for the next 5 months. Because every August before the first kickoff is ever kicked off, South Carolina fans have illusions of grandeur. They have a star in their eye. They're delusional or drunk or high or all three. I don't know which one. Every year they're winning the East. Every year they're beating Clemson. Every year this is going to be the year they win the SEC. And eventually, some of them are even so crazy to go as far as saying they're going to make the playoff, which I don't know what they're smoking. But usually by about September 30th, October 15th, somewhere right around there, they come back down to earth, and most of them disappear because they're exposed for being what they are, perennial losers. DeGoat Watson says Georgia beat South Carolina by 2 touchdowns without Samuel. This game is in South Carolina. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care who's Debo Samuel. They could have Debo Samuel. They could have Tom Brady. They could have Le'Veon Bell. Odell Beckham Jr. Doesn't matter. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it doesn't matter who they have on their team. Because coaches win big games. And yeah, it's pretty much that simple. Kirby Smart couldn't wear, or I'm sorry, Will Muschamp couldn't wear Kirby Smart's jockstrap. Good afternoon, Be Spooky. How you doing, sir? Vegas has him at 7 wins. Over under who? South Carolina. I would say they'll go over. I have South Carolina at 8-4 or 9-3. That's my guess. I don't think they're going to win 10 games in the regular season. Would be amazing for them. At least the Georgia-South Carolina game will be highly anticipated. I'm sure it will be an awesome game. Yeah, it'll be highly anticipated, and a lot of people will watch it. I'll watch it. I don't see South Carolina winning it, though. Miranda Dansby, she's a Clemson fan. She says she supports the Gamecocks when they aren't playing Clemson. It's only right in her eyes because it's a South Carolina team, but I always root for them to lose when they play Clemson. That's your prerogative, Miranda. I feel completely the opposite way. And believe me, most Gamecock fans feel the opposite way too. They want Clemson to lose every single game, which is why they're mostly miserable, because they don't. Nick Bro says DeAndre Baker will shut down Samuel. I don't know if anybody's going to shut him down. The problem isn't Deebo Samuel. It's the guy throwing him the ball. Jake Bentley, one of his best attributes is also his biggest downfall. He's a gunslinger. He throws a lot of interceptions. If he can't tighten that up, it's going to be a long year for the Gamecock fans. And when you play against elite defenses like Clemson and Georgia, he can't be doing that. It's just the game gets out of hand real quick when he does that. College Football Maniac says he has them at 9-3. He could possibly see 7-5 lowest, 9-3 highest. That's pretty much where I have them at, and that's coming from a Gamecock fan there, so it's not me being biased. I pretty much agree with that. One thing's for sure, though, they're not winning the SEC. That's what I'm hearing now from all of them. And they're not winning. They're not going to the playoff. Just stop it. Just if you're a Gamecock fan, you're going to come on here and tell me that. Just stop it. Stop it. George says if somebody doesn't start a channel up for Florida, he might be forced to do it. I think there is somebody. Doesn't Lance and Jasper have a Florida channel? To go Watson, she was like that before we started dating. DeGoat Watson says South Carolina fan told him this week the only reason why we make the playoffs is because we play in the ACC, and we played in the okay. South Carolina fans talking about Clemson's schedule. Look, everybody who has a cell phone, everybody has cell phones nowadays, right? I want everybody to push the power button and pull up South Carolina's schedule on your phone right now. They don't play a single Power 5 non-conference game other than Clemson because they play them every year. But they play Missouri, Vanderbilt, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, all their normal East teams. I don't even know who's their cross-divisional game. Somebody that's not very good. I don't know who it is. They don't play like we play Texas A&M, and we played, Auburn the past couple years. We played in at least decent SEC, most of the time SEC non-conference games, and South Carolina on our schedule. South Carolina does not have any tough games on their schedule other than Georgia. They should beat Kentucky, which they can't for the past 4 years. They should beat Missouri. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't beat them. Oh, Texas A&M's the cross-divisional game they play every year. Texas A&M's been in the SEC 5 or 6 years. They have never beat Texas A&M, ever. This is my point. Everybody on that schedule that they lose to every year, Clemson beats. Clemson beats Auburn 4 out of the last 5 times we played them. Clemson beats South Carolina four times in a row, and 69, 42, and 4. Who else? Who else have they played recently that we beat all the time? My point is, if you flip-flop Clemson and South Carolina would not have any better record in Clemson's division. They'd lose to Florida State every year. I mean, it just is what it is. I was at the Florida spring game when Cam Newton came up for mop-up duty. I turned to my brother and said, "Who is that dude? This guy's better than Tebow." Yeah. Well, that's another thing. If South Carolina plays Ole Miss this year, I doubt if they lost that game. Texas A&M, that's in Columbia, but again, they've never beat Texas A&M since Texas A&M's joined the SEC. That's a sad and pitiful stat. That's almost as embarrassing as losing to Kentucky 4 years in a row. Boston College is underrated this season. They deserve more respect. Yeah, they'll. This might be the best Boston College team in at least a decade. Yeah, they will be better than they will. Listen, they're not going to win the ACC or anything, but believe me, they'll knock off a couple of teams that they're not supposed to beat for sure. Hopefully, it's not Clemson. That's a trap game for Clemson. Late in November, night game in Boston. Be cold outside. Yeah. Pigskin Pete, do you plan on going to any Clemson or Panthers game this season? Yes, both. I'm trying to figure that out right now. Either going to go to the NC State game or the Louisville game for Clemson. And then the Panthers game, I'm either going to go to probably the Giants game or maybe the Saints or the Falcons. I don't know yet. Boston 25332 says Boston College offense still sucks, but they have A.J. Dillon, who's number 3rd on the Heisman list. So can they move the ball down the field? Passing? Probably not. But they have one of the most elite running backs in the country, a guy who will be probably a first-round draft pick at that position in the NFL draft. A.J. Dillon is no joke. Last year, as a true freshman, he rushed for 2,000 yards. He is a monster back. Yeah, I agree. So I went to the Boston College game last year at Clemson, and I told this story a million times. For anybody who's heard it, I'm sorry. The problem with Boston College is they can hang in there for 2 or 3 quarters. They don't have enough depth to hang with somebody like Clemson, Florida State, something like that, for 4 quarters. So last year, it was 13-7 going into the 4th quarter. Clemson only had a 6-point lead. And then in the 4th quarter, Clemson scored 28 points, 4 touchdowns in a row because the defense got wore out and they don't have depth. And that's probably what I see happening again this year. What's more embarrassing than 127 years of nothing but 1 conference title and 1 division title? Nothing's more embarrassing than that. Duke has more national championships than they do. Syracuse has more national championships than they do. I mean, I think Purdue does. Nothing against Purdue, but it is what it is. There's not many teams in a Power 5 conference, especially in a major Power 5 conference like the SEC, that don't have national titles. And by the way, they do have a losing record to Duke, head-to-head. And I'm talking about football, not basketball. Bracker says Notre Dame is perennially overrated. Recently, they are. They, believe me, Notre Dame is capable of putting together. They have elite talent. They have a really tough schedule every year. Notre Dame is not a bad team. It just one year they're terrible, the next year they're not. It's just they're just not consistent. No, Notre Dame football players do not suck. Trust me. They attract elite talent. Not a fan of Notre Dame at all. I'm just saying. Yeah, Notre Dame's offensive line is elite. Good afternoon, Billy Dawson. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. My phone is blowing up. I'm gonna have to get off, guys, because I don't know what's going on. My wife's called me like 5 times. She's probably pissed. So in the interest of myself, I'm gonna have to get off. Call her back. So again, I'll see you again Thursday, 4 p.m. for a live stream. And then next Saturday at 3:30 Eastern time, be there. I'm super excited for Washington versus Auburn. I will be streaming live during the game, doing my live play-by-play and reaction. And that's going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to either be awesome or completely terrible. I'll let you be the judge of that. I'm saying it's going to be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. So thanks, guys, for joining me. I'll see you in a couple days. It's been a lot of fun. It's been real. It's been fun, but it hadn't been real fun. Just kidding. You guys are amazing. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete. Check it out.